Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the royals. We end with our weekly feature, The Comments of the Week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 135.
Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra, I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
So we were off last week, so we're going to have episodes the next 2 weeks, and then we're off again on October 22nd. That's our schedule for now, unless something happens.
Ooh, are we gonna do another spooky episode with scary stories?
I don't know about that. We did that a couple years ago. That's an inspirational thing, I think. Like, you have to be inspired to do it.
Okay.
I'm good for now. You know, I've been through enough. It was fun,
Okay.
though. I'll link those in this post, those Halloween episodes. We did a couple of those. I got that puppy. He's doing really well. So we got our routine down. That was really touch and go for a little while, but now we're doing good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Does he sleep in your room?
No, he sleeps in a portable crate in the living room. And he really doesn't whine much. He whines a little bit, but I never respond to him when he whines, so he's stopping. And I've started puppy kindergarten with him, and last week was just like you leave the dogs at home and meet everybody. And I got it really good compared to some of the other dog owners. Like, he's a good boy, I'll tell you that. The stories I heard about how long they whine and the naughtiness they get up to, so...
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, he seems like a good dog. I do think you should let him sleep in your bedroom, though.
Fuck no.
All right.
No.
I'm
I
just saying.
did a compromise by letting him sleep in the living room because my mom said, you know, if they cry, then you can hear them. But he stays in the basement when I'm working. I walk him like 3-4 times a day. But he stays in the basement in like a crate in a big pen. And I was like, he could sleep down there too, as far as I'm concerned. But my mom told me to let him sleep in the living room, which is close enough that I'll hear him if he has problems at night.
My dog, Pogu, who passed away several years ago,
Yeah, he was a sweet boy.
he would sleep on the floor, but at the bottom of my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got so used to him, hearing him throughout the night, like, you know, sighing or moving around. And it was very comforting to me to know
Aw.
that he was in the room with me.
I was getting woken up too much by the dog tags moving and stuff. And the dog moving around would wake me up. And I had him, you know, in the crate right next to me. And they say you're supposed to do that when you first get a puppy so that they feel comfortable. And after a couple weeks, I was like, okay, he's going to go in the living room. And I sleep better. He woke up a couple nights ago in the middle of the night, but that was my fault because I didn't walk him one last time before we went to sleep. But he sleeps from like 9 to 4 or 5 when I wake up, so it's not bad.
Meanwhile, my cat wakes me up, my cat Panther. He wakes me up several times during the night.
Oh.
He's like a baby.
That sucks. I'm glad I'm not going through that.
Well, I started watching Blonde. It was a bad book, so obviously it's going to make a bad adaptation. Like Joyce Carol Oates' book, it goes to like the worst parts of Marilyn's life, and
Yeah.
it doesn't give her any agency whatsoever, and it doesn't allow for her to like be a funny person or actually enjoy, you know, her friendships and her relationships with men. It's all like, oh, torture and whatever. So I thought that's what the movie was going to be like. I've only gotten up to the point where she's married Arthur Miller.
Okay.
And it's not as like wall-to-wall torture-y as you would think. Like, it's not just like misery after misery after misery. Like, Anna is giving Marilyn like some real character and vulnerability and sweetness.
Okay.
So I like it. But I mean, not love it. It's not a good movie, but
It's not as bad as you thought it would be.
yeah, it's not as bad as I thought, and it's not as like, oh, look at poor miserable Marilyn constantly. Like, you can tell she's a very sensitive person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Marilyn probably was, you know, very sensitive, very vulnerable, and Anna's doing that part of it really well.
She can act.
Yeah, she can.
She really can act. I'm not going to watch it. I'll just go with what you say, but that's good. That is not terrible.
Bobby Cannavale played Joe DiMaggio.
Uh-huh.
He was not right for the role, but it was interesting to see him do that. But Adrian Brody is already like really good as Arthur Miller.
Okay. Are you going to finish it, do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to finish it. I think I've only got like an hour left, so I'll watch it.
And you were going to talk about Roger Federer retiring.
Oh, yeah, he retired last Friday. It was a lot sadder than I thought it would be.
Aw.
You know, he hasn't played much in the past few years, and he's just had injury after injury, and he played his final match with Rafa Nadal.
Oh.
And they're good friends, and they're, you know, obviously great rivals throughout their entire careers. And Roger just needed a friend there with him. That's why he asked Rafa. They held hands, and it was just so moving to watch these two grown men, like fierce competitors, crying and holding hands and being very emotional and physical with each other. It was very sweet and kind.
Aw. And Federer always seems like such a stand-up guy, too.
Yeah, I knew Roger was going to cry. He's always been a crier. Like, it hurt. It hurt my heart to see Rafa so emotional and just sobbing to watch his good friend retire.
Aw. I'll look that up on YouTube and link it in the post. It'll make me cry, too, I'm sure.
I'll send you some links for it.
Okay,
There
thank
are a
you.
couple of photos of the two of them holding hands, and it was a very brief moment, but like those photos went massively viral.
Aw.
Just ending toxic masculinity, like one handhold at a time.
The way you phrase things. All right, speaking of toxic masculinity, let's talk about the royals.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, so last week we had the Queen's funeral on Monday, and like it was long. I was surprised how long it was. There was that parade with the casket, and there were several points where I was like, yeah, it's got to be over now. Nope. It just kept going.
I thought the London part, I thought that was the end of the televised part, and once they got to Windsor, everything was just going to be private.
Too.
Yeah.
It got
It just kept going and going. I was like, so the funeral dirges are going to end at some point, right? But no, clomp, clomp, clomp. There goes the horses. You know?
Yeah, we were talking, and I was like ready to sign off for the day. There was another funeral. I'm like, what is the second funeral?
And the second funeral, like a lot of stuff happened. Like a stick got broken in the
that
Lord
was
Chamberlain.
Weird. Yeah, the stick was like a breakaway stick. It was meant to break. It wasn't like he had splinters or anything. It was very weird.
And the names that they like gave all of these individual ceremonies, like, oh, this is the special moment where the monarch drapes a cloth over such and such, and it's called the hoobajigger of something or other, you know.
And they had like 2 ceremonies for the different crowns and stuff like that. It was very weird. I don't know what they were doing. So Meghan and Harry were there, and they were just minding their business and being like gorgeous and perfect. Not to overstate it, but they did a great job, you know.
Yeah, and they did a great job by not saying a word. Harry issued one statement throughout the entire mourning period, and that was just about the uniform issue.
Yeah.
And Meghan did not say a word. You know, she was just obviously just there to support Harry. And everyone in Britain was just trying to rip them to shreds for just existing and standing there.
The press, yeah.
And the cameras kept finding them and kept finding Harry specifically. Harry stood out like a king. You know, like he just looks like a natural leader. His gait, the way he walks. I mean, everything was just screaming like, this is the future king, except it's not.
It doesn't hurt that he's so handsome.
Yeah.
So we talked about the funeral on Zoom, and this is Karen and Amira.
That whole funeral was weird.
Okay, they're done. And then it's like, oh, they're going to drive her to Windsor. Okay, wait, there's another service? What? And then first they had to walk her down the street again.
They just walking that dead woman's body just back and forth, around, back. I'm like, just put her in the ground. She's been dead for a week now. Can we bury her?
I've never seen William and Kate so happy. It's like those American Greed stories where the wife mysteriously dies and the husband is really, really peppy at the funeral, and everybody's like, "Are you okay?" Was she calling Angela Kelly the minute she died and said, can I get some jewelry? They just seem giddy.
I feel like they got out the car and like some rap song was like, get money was playing. Or, like they were just so happy. They're like, we're rich now.
Junior Mafia, get money,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's how that was. She's like, give me the jewels, give me the pearls.
Yeah, they were having a party, like the Windsors or Waleses, whatever we're calling them now. They couldn't hide their glee, and Kate was like the cat that ate the canary.
Yeah, for real. And like just the sheer fact that Kate's first acts as Princess of Wales were to like just grab Queen Elizabeth's jewelry.
I know it.
But the only thing I ended up enjoying the funeral dirges. I liked all the music. I thought that was...
I've never even heard anybody use that word in a sentence, like in person.
I think that's how you say it, dirges.
You did. You're always good at using the fancy words right. I'm just saying.
But that's what they are. I mean, with the Scottish bagpipes and like all of the like Celtic influences on British funerals, they're like actual funeral dirges.
I was like listening to the funeral march and I'm like, they're playing the little funeral march. That's crazy. That's too much. Just dial it down a notch,
Well,
dun,
like
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, for like more than an hour, there were no bagpipes. And then once they got it back to Windsor and like they were in Windsor for like 20 minutes and all of a sudden the bagpipes started up again. I was like, holy shit.
Oh, take it down a notch. Turn it off now. It's enough. I said this on Twitter, but when I die, like half hour, hour maybe. Don't make people stick around to talk about me. So there are 3 new royal books out now. And there's Valentine Lowe's book, which has got the most tea. And that's Cordier's The Hidden Power Behind the Throne. There's Katie Nicholl. She's the Cambridge's buddy there. She's got the New Royals, and that's kind of stale, but we're getting a little bit from that. And then the Angela Levin book about Camilla.
Yeah. Levin's is the most unhinged. Nichols is kind of the weakest.
Yeah.
Weirdly. And then, Valentine Lowe's book made a lot of news, and he's kind of a shady bitch, I have to say. He is, because I was following a thread on Twitter between Valentine Lowe and that Catherine Meyer, who has written a very critical book about Charles and the way the Windsors handled the Sussexes leaving.
Mm.
And Lowe and Catherine Meyer were talking to each other about the British reaction to Meghan, and they don't even realize that they're being racist.
And when you tell them they are, they're like, oh no.
No, they're like, oh no, it's just because she's American.
It's hazing. Like everyone goes through it. It is very racist, yes.
Yeah, but my point was that like Valentine Lowe actually understands that some of the people he's quoting in the book are fucking morons.
Oh.
They don't even see their own racism. And once I realized that he saw it too, I could tell by like the way he was writing certain passages. I was like, oh yeah, he sees that there's another story here. He just isn't writing
He's
it.
implying it.
Yeah.
One of the main stories that we reported on from his book is how Meghan was blamed for the way she was treated by the palace staff. And the way this is phrased, this might be what you meant by saying that he knows there's another story there. A source told him, quote, everyone knew that the institution would be judged by her happiness. The mistake they made was thinking that she wanted to be happy. She wanted to be rejected because she was obsessed with that narrative from day one. So they're blaming her and saying, well, she just decided to be that way. And that's the staff that called her a sociopath. Like, please.
Yeah. And that quote, that particular quote, and the one calling her a narcissist and a sociopath, those were all quotes and stories. We heard versions of that when Kensington Palace staffers went to Robert Lacey when he was writing an update to Battle of Brothers.
Yeah.
And it was very clear in Robert Lacey's update that William and William's staff had specifically gone to Lacey with this narrative to protect themselves, that don't worry about whatever receipts Meghan has. She was just gathering receipts because she didn't want to be happy, because she wanted to create this narrative. And that's like fucking insane.
It is pretty bad.
It goes like far beyond victim blaming. They're saying that she orchestrated her own smear campaign against herself, which drove her to suicidal feelings.
They're terrible. I mean, this whole narrative, it proves that everything she said, that she's downplaying it, basically.
Yeah.
And the examples they gave, so we finally got an example of Meghan supposedly being a bully and saying something like, we always heard the feels of the people who she dealt with. The examples in Lowe's book are like the royal staff was just terrible and very bad at their job. And Meghan said to this woman, don't worry, if there was literally anyone else I could ask to do this, I would be asking them instead of you. I didn't excerpt this from our Zoom, but like Lisa and Karen thought that she meant that earnestly. Like, don't worry, I would ask somebody else instead of you if I could. But I think it's shady. They didn't think it was shady.
I think it's shady too.
Yeah.
I like posted that on Twitter and I was laughing about it because I was like, go Meghan. If she really said that to a Kensington Palace staffer, like she must have been fed up with their bullshit.
Because she's the nicest person. She's like kindergartner teacher nice. And like, this is just a little bit shady. It's not that bad.
Yeah. It's something a boss would say to a subordinate if the subordinate was incompetent.
And that person clearly deserved it.
And like the way that Lowe frames certain stories is like, she felt disrespected. That's because you were acting disrespectfully towards her.
Yeah.
Like, don't say, oh, it was all about her feeling disrespected. You were actually actively disrespecting her.
It just makes the staff look bad and incompetent. And there's stories about Charles where he's calling people on Christmas. He calls them up till 11 p.m. Like the only bad story we heard about Meghan, she sent an email at 5 o'clock in the morning once. That's email. You know, you can turn off the alerts on your phone. The stuff that Charles does, his office sounds like toxic. The staff are backstabbing. He's gone through 5 secretaries in 7 years. Like, he sounds like a terrible boss. And Meghan's like, yeah, could you do your job, please?
Yeah.
You know?
Could you work a full day since you're a full-time employee?
Yeah.
Yeah. And can you make a better plan? And they're like, no, we can't. We're incompetent.
He's nerded.
I mean, she was. I can't imagine, as an American, I cannot imagine trying to deal with those people. I think that was a pure cultural difference. It was a culture shock for Meghan to see what British work culture is, and even more specifically British royal work culture, because that's a whole different beast.
Yeah. And the royal, I'm sure, is much worse than...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So in the Nichols book, The New Royals, she has that detail we've heard before that William can't forgive Harry, and that William, quote, always expected Harry would be his wingman. Like, this is the crux of their problem. Like, why aren't you here to pick up the slack for me and do my work and never get married?
And even if that's coming from William, which it is, I'm mad that Harry's not around to be my wingman. Like, how pathetic is that?
Yeah, it is.
Coming from William.
It is.
That you're a 40-year-old man and you're still bitching and moaning and got sand in your britches about your younger brother not being around to be your whipping boy and your scapegoat.
Ridiculous. So Nicole also writes that, you know, Charles hasn't made a decision on Archie and Lily's titles because they're trying to see what Harry reveals in his memoir. And
which is bonkers.
It is crazy. Like, they're trying to see if anything happens in the Netflix show, what he says in his book, and then they'll decide how much they're going to punish them.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Meghan and Harry are just back in Montecito with their babies, and Charles is like, well, I'm going to bully those babies at some point. You know?
Yeah. The way he's going about it does look really racist and selective.
Yeah, and again, Archie and Lilibet are already prince and princess. What Charles would do would be actively taking those titles away from them. That's the decision he has to make. It's not a decision to give them titles or not give them titles.
Yeah. And he also is the one who didn't invite Meghan to Balmoral. And he said she had to stay back when she had already planned to go there. And we got a ton more stories about that, too. And right after the Queen died, it was all about the Sussexes and everything they were doing wrong and how Meghan wasn't family and wasn't invited to Balmoral.
Right. So the Queen died on Thursday, September 8th. September 9th, 10th, and 11th, the British newspapers and British tabloids were wall-to-wall coverage about how Meghan and Harry are terrible because they said they were coming up to Balmoral together. And Charles had to call Harry, because of course Charles would not speak to Meghan. Charles called Harry and told him that Meghan was not welcome in Balmoral, that she's not family, that only family is allowed in Balmoral. And the fact that Charles wanted that out there, that his people were leaking that information.
It's
and
cruel.
William was leaking a lot of it too.
Because he didn't want Kate to come for whatever reason, or she couldn't come. And then it became, well, if Kate's not going, Meghan's not going. That's one theory.
Well, I mean, that's what they've said.
Oh, okay.
They've said it outright that Meghan couldn't come because Kate wasn't coming. Here's my thing. Kate didn't come for a very good reason. It was the first day of school for her kids. Of course she wanted to be there.
That's fine, yeah.
Why is that a thing? The fact that they made such a big fucking deal about Kate wasn't coming makes me think that she didn't come and it had nothing to do with the kids' school.
Yeah, that there was some other reason because, William doesn't want her around.
Exactly. The whole first 72 hours after the Queen passed away, and this is the biggest story, this is what the palaces are briefing the media about, is how much they hate Meghan and how Meghan isn't their family.
Yeah, it really is petty. It shows that everything she said, as I was mentioning before, like she downplayed what she went through. They're lucky that she is so classy as she is. She's barely telling what happened to her.
I wish she would just come out and say, these people are despicable. But they're showing that. They're showing us how despicable they are.
Yeah. And they've been trying to leak all these stories about whether Harry and his dad can make up, too, as they do all this stuff to them. And Charles wants them to make up, but Gayle King reported that there's not a peace deal at the funeral. Of course there wasn't. We saw how everybody was acting toward each other. And they demoted Harry and Meghan at the Royal UK website. They just stuck them at the bottom.
Yeah, and that was after they didn't give their children titles in the line of succession. So obviously Charles wants it both ways. He wants to say, look how I'm treating my second son. He's back in the family briefly. We're treating him with respect, while also briefing against him, telling Harry that his wife is unwelcome, she's not family, refusing to allow Harry to wear a uniform.
And taking the insignia off Harry's uniform.
Right.
Like,
just as
come
one
on.
petty little
Yes.
asshole move. Harry was there to pay respect to his grandmother. That's all Harry was doing. And I think Meghan and Harry are so happy to be out of that fucking island and back home. And meanwhile, Charles is like, well, we might do this, we might do that, blah, 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 blah. I don't think Harry is participating in any of that bullshit anymore.
He's not. And I'm looking forward to his biography. And it's like you've been writing. I think the first biography will be fine, but after that, he's going to start giving some pretty telling details, I believe.
Yeah, the first memoir is just going to be what he's always said. And I don't know why they refuse to just accept his word of, this is going to be about my military service. This is going to be about dealing with Diana's death.
He doesn't have to dish the dirt. Everyone's going to buy it. It's like Meghan's podcast. Everyone's like, okay, we'll listen to whatever you say. We'll read, we'll buy. They have a ton of supporters. She writes a children's book, it becomes a bestseller. Whatever they want to do, they're going to win and be successful. Because they're good people. We see who they are and people want to support them.
Yeah, people want to support them. 100%.
Yeah.
And the podcast is good. The first episode had some growing pains, but like by the Mindy Kaling episode, Meghan had really found her stride as a podcaster.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well. So we talked on Zoom about Charles, and this is Amira and Michelle.
And I don't think it would matter if he cut everybody. Remember, he wanted his streamlined royal family. That would be how you would do it. Everybody who's not in the direct line of succession. Yeah. He's just so stupid. I just don't get it.
Again, I still find it crazy too. I would think the memoir would be the reason why. You remind yourself, we do not need to take anything more away from him because he can do it again. They just make zero sense to me. They're terrible decision makers.
But
Yeah.
keep in mind, they're also abusers. They act like abusers. Abusers will always put themselves as the victim, and they will keep abusing, but blaming you for your response to their abuse. I mean, think about the stories that came out after the funeral. They treated them like crap that entire 10 days. Then it was like, Charles thinks that there's room for unity. And then after that, he comes out and pushes them further down on the list or on the royal website. It's very gaslighting and very sort of like, do what I want you to do. And every time you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to punish you. But the thing is that they still haven't quite gotten that they don't hold any power anymore. Because the truth is, Meghan and Harry don't care about those titles, clearly.
Amira is right. Like, Charles is using the abuser's playbook. It's really obvious. And in Zoom, we were talking about the Queen of Denmark, Queen Margrethe, taking away the Prince and Princess titles and the HRH styling of her 4 grandchildren. And she did that for her younger son, the Spare. So she said she was doing it so they could make their own life decisions, and it sounded like really magnanimous or whatever. But it came as a shock to her grandchildren. His ex-wife spoke about it and was like, they're taking away the kids' identities, and it sounds real messy.
And the prince spoke about it too. There's more shit coming out, which is like needing to be translated from Danish. It's a huge scandal because apparently the queen didn't tell her son that this was happening specifically this way. The grandchildren didn't know. Everyone's real worked up about it. And it's going to be interesting to see if and when King Charles does this shit with the Sussex's children, what the reaction will be worldwide.
Yeah.
Because even during the funeral stuff, they were talking about the children's titles and what's going to happen. And they were talking about it internationally.
Yeah. Because people could see how petty they were being to Harry and how he was just
Yep.
trying to show up for his grandma.
Yep.
So the Cambridges are now the Waleses or whatever. And
That's how I feel too. I'm like, I wince every time I have to write, oh, Princess of Wales. Oh.
I know, that's Diana. Fuck that. They should have given her some other title. But so they went to Wales and trounced around. Kate was wearing her red coat, so she matched the flag. And yeah, they just did stuff, you know. That's what they're doing.
It was a pretty low-key visit, and Obed Scobie said something about how it was supposed to be low-key. They're supposed to be, like, not doing big fancy events at Cardiff Castle or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And I get that. Like, I get wanting to lean into, like, the middle-class vibe and, like, just going to support a few charities and that kind of thing. I think that's fine. It also sort of showed you that Kate and William are not glamorous. Like, they can't really do the big events at a castle.
And when they do, they fuck it up so bad and look like colonialists.
Yeah.
You know, they look like throwbacks. They want that. They're cultivating that image, but it makes them look out of touch and terrible.
Well, I heard a rumor. I haven't seen this reported anywhere.
Okay.
It's just a Twitter rumor that they did not announce anything about their visit for like several hours because they didn't know what kind of reaction they were going to get in Wales.
Oh, they didn't want to get protested.
Booed. Yeah, or protested or booed. And so, like, the staff selected the people who were greeting them when they first arrived in Anglesey. And that's why the little kid was waiting there for hours and hours because they wouldn't announce when exactly they were going to arrive.
They don't want people to have time to organize.
Yeah, more than 35,000 Welsh people have signed a petition to, like, retire the Prince of Wales and Princess of Wales titles.
Ooh.
I don't know why Charles decided to just hand this off to them right away.
Maybe that's why. Remember how he set them up to tour the countries that are leaving? It could be. That could be why he was like, yeah, you're the Prince and Princess of Wales now. You handle it. Seriously.
And once again, I have to wonder if it came as a surprise to Will and Kate as well. Because
they don't do their homework. They don't.
I said this before. I don't think they knew that they were getting the Wales titles right away. And that would also explain why William didn't brush up on his Welsh.
Yeah, he said he only knew a few phrases or whatever, but you're not going to learn it like in a week or two. You know, you have to learn it your whole life to learn a language.
Right. I'm not expecting William to be completely fluent in Welsh.
This is something he should have been preparing for, but like everything else, he does a half-assed job and thinks just showing up is enough.
Yeah, no one expected him to be fluent. Everyone, probably in Wales, expected him to know more than just a few words.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the comments of the week. So do you want to go first?
Sure, I changed mine. Okay,
Oh.
so...
Okay.
All right, so the new season of Hulu's The Kardashians has started, and every week now we're getting these absolutely insane stories about Khloe Kardashian and the revisionist history of her relationship with Tristan. I mean, these were gossip stories the entire time. We have the timeline. We have the People magazine articles. We have the tweets. We have the Instagrams. We know when the shit was happening.
Exactly.
But now all of a sudden, Khloe is telling people that like she and Tristan were engaged almost all of 2021.
Please.
And so Light Purple wrote, does Tristan know he proposed to her and that they were engaged?
Yeah, ridiculous. She's so desperado. And I like how you phrased it today. You're like, she's rich, she has agency. You know, she could have moved on from this. She should have. She's just so stuck.
I don't get why these grown-ass women have to be infantilized about every decision they're making. And they do this with Olivia Wilde, too. We get comments like, how dare you criticize Olivia Wilde?
She's got bots. She's got people they pay. I mean, I have no doubt about that. But yeah, same.
Yeah, like, what's happening to Olivia Wilde is not sexism. It's consequences for her own behavior.
Exactly.
And it's the same with Khloe. She has agency. She is making these decisions herself.
She was chasing after Lamar's Odom's side pieces and trying to fight them.
Exactly.
You know, she's been doing this for years. This is her MO.
And I have no doubt that Tristan is a piece of trash. Yeah. And I have no doubt that he's lied to her a lot and that he's treated her like shit. But that's why she should have walked away.
Yeah, at some point you call it.
You say, you know what? You're a prick. I'm over you.
Yeah. Count your money. Like, go do something else, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So my comment of the week is from Lunch Coma, and it's on the post about Brad Pitt being with Emily how do you pronounce her name?
Ratajkowski.
Emily Ratajkowski. And saying how awesome she is, but they're casual and blah, blah, blah. So Lunch Coma wrote, this is as cringe as watching Leo put out press conference about Gigi Hadid. I think it's more cringe.
I think it's pretty equally cringe.
Okay.
Because it's equally as obvious.
It's bad. Like, Brad Pitt, come on.
What is with these 50-something-year-old men trying to hook up with these younger ladies and then having their publicists leak all of it?
Because they can't deal with women their own age who would actually, like, expect an adult relationship.
God, could you imagine Leo with, like, a 50-year-old lawyer? And how she would chew him up?
Yeah, he can't stand it. He can't deal with anybody over 25. Literally.
Hey, come on now. Gigi is an old hag
27.
at 27.
Yeah. All right, 30. I'll give him 30. Maybe it'll be his old age thing until he's like 90 or whenever he passes. He'll get to women when they turn 30, then their time is up.
I remember being surprised when George Clooney got with Amal that...
They stayed together.
Well, they've stayed together. That's surprising.
Yeah.
But she was a little bit older than he usually dated at the time. She was, I think, 33, 34, and at that time, he was usually going for like 28, 29.
Yeah.
He was never like Leo in that the girl had to be 20, 21.
Yeah, but he had younger girlfriends, I remember.
Oh, yeah, always had younger girlfriends. But he raised his age limit.
He did.
Even before Amal, he was raising his age limit.
So he matured, I guess.
A little bit.
All right, well, thanks for listening, bitches.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen.
If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.